Oh yes, today we're doing some baking. People, look at this, all the little ingredients are ready, and today we're going to discover together a specialty from Brittany, ultimate comfort food cake called the phare breton. It is a simple cake slash pudding made with a batter that is similar to a crepe batter, in which you add some prunes in it. You can also add apples, or you can add nothing if you want, as the original recipe actually did not have anything. So without further ado, get all the pans, all the liquors out, and let's bake. And now let's start with the ingredients. They'll all be listed in the video description, but for that particular recipe there is two key ingredients. First off, the prunes, they have to be soaked in alcohol or water or tea, up to you. I've soaked them in cognac, or you can soak them in armagnac or rhum, or just water if you don't want to have alcohol in. And this here is a salted butter. Anything you do something with the Brittany recipe, a lot of time the real recipe calls for salted butter, and this is what we are gonna use. So let me show you that straight on the stove. Okay, so here we are on the stove. To start off, you're gonna use all of the salted butter, and we're gonna melt the whole lot in a pan and make a beurre noisette. The beurre noisette in this type of recipes is super important. Okay, so medium heat, and we're gonna wait until this starts to foam. So usually the trick is when it stops making noise, that means it's done. And fair enough, if I look at the bottom, I can put my heat off. Or what I've got here, you see that foam? So it's finished to cook. And if you look at there, you see there's a little brown in the bottom? That is enough. And if you smell the butter right now, it's gonna be having that chestnut little intonation, and that's gonna give a superb flavor in our cake. Okay, so now that we have the butter ready, we can start the recipe. The batter is very, very simple. You're gonna take your flour first and pass it through a sieve. Once you're done, you add all of the sugar in, as well as the vanilla beans. So I've scrapped out all of the vanilla seeds out of my pod that is here, okay? And you can keep these vanilla pods, dry them, freeze them, and then mix them with sugar and blend them to make a vanillin sugar. Okay, so now we've got the dry ingredients in. So what we're gonna do here, it's like a crepe batter. You're gonna mix everything first, and we're gonna create that little kind of fountain, the well. So basically it's a hole in the middle with the flour around it. And we're gonna start to add the eggs. We're gonna add the eggs. You don't have to put them all at once. You can start with one or two. And I'm not adding salt in here because there's already salt in the butter. So what you do here, instead of mixing everything at once, you incorporate first a little bit of eggs with the flour and the sugar, and to start off the base, like that paste. You can see how I'm catching some of the flour, and as soon as it becomes a little bit too liquid, a little bit too stiff like that, then you add another egg, or even two, and you repeat the same process. Okay, so very gently you're gonna mix like that in the middle and start to catch as much flour as you can before we even add the milk in. So if you've done a good job, as you can see with my mix here, there's almost no flour left, and I've got that very nice yellow consistency with all of the vanilla seeds, and these seeds in there. And I can now add my milk, and the reason I'm doing this is because that's going to prevent to have any clumps, you see. So a little bit at a time, usually it's in 2 or 3 times. You add the milk and you wait until it incorporates totally before you add more. Okay, so very slowly. So I've done one bit here, you add a little bit more, and you continue until everything is in. All right, all of my milk is in, and I'm gonna add here basically it's a bit more than a tablespoon of rhum in, and very gently mix. So as you can see, there's a white foam at the top, but it's yellow under, and then we're gonna pass this through a sieve afterwards. And now when you've done with everything, it is time to add the butter. And the final step is now to add all of the butter in. So this is the beurre noisette we had before. Look at that, all the nice butter in. And this is a key element that is gonna give that chestnut intonation to your mix, and you always just add the butter at the end, and your butter must not be too warm, so let it cool down a little bit. I don't want to cook anything. And as soon as this is done, that's it. Our batter is done, and we're going to pour this in the dish and cook it. It's that simple. Now, the phare au pruneaux uses prunes that are marinated, and I've removed the stones in the prunes. Always remove the stones. You don't want to break your teeth or your guest teeth. So you just use prunes marinated like that, and you're just gonna add some. It's up to you. At the bottom of your dish. I'm just using here a small pie dish, but you can use something bigger. But you need something with the high edges like that. So I'm just gonna put a few on there, not too many, and we're gonna add the batter. Now, to make it simpler, I've put my batter in there, and if you go slow like this, your prunes are not gonna move too much. So the goal here is to have some thickness, but you don't want it too thick. And some people tend to make it too thick. So I'm just gonna cover the prunes here and see up to there, and that's it, just halfway, because it's gonna grow when we're gonna put this in the oven. And that's it, and it is now ready to be cooked. As soon as the batter is in, we're ready to cook the phare breton, that's a special pudding, and the cooking time can vary anywhere from 25 to 40 plus minutes, and that depends on the type of dish you use and how much of the mixture you want to put in. There is no rules for that recipe, it is up to you. Some people like it very, very high, very thick in a huge dish, and that takes more than 40 minutes. I prefer something a bit skinnier, because you will see it will grow when you cook it. So what I'm gonna do with this one, I'm just gonna cook it and tell you at the end exactly how much time it took me, okay? So I'm gonna put it in the oven at 180 degrees Celsius. I'll put the equivalent on Fahrenheit on the screen, and I'll show you the result when it's cooked. Okay, look at this, my phare is just out of the oven, it's hot. So very important, you cannot eat this cake when it's hot. The ideal temperature is basically just about lukewarm or up to room temperature, and usually has to be served with coffee. So the first thing we're gonna do here is we're gonna wait, and you're gonna see very quickly, like a souffle, it's gonna fall. It's gonna lose its thickness and become a bit more solid. So I'm gonna let it cool down here, and then we'll break it open and see how it is inside. My phare has cooled down, and this is what I wanted to show you, because this is how I personally like to have or like to make this recipe. And that means you've got the mix, and that's almost like between a custard and a pudding. It's very, very soft, very tender, a little bit bouncy, and you've got these nuggets of prunes inside, and they're very concentrated flavors. And I love that dessert. We'll talk about it because it's very versatile, but you can cut it like this and with a fork, and what you'll get is this. You see, so you can take a bit of prunes. Let me try. Oh, mamma mia. Now that is addictive. Ooh, it is good. It is actually, oh, I forgot how good that thing was. Oh my goodness, that's good. Well, this is basically the weird combination of having on your palate, it's like having a kind of a crepe, you know, the taste of a crepe with the taste of butter, with the taste of a pudding, with the taste of a bread and butter pudding, with prunes, with vanilla flavor. It's intense, it's fatty, it's silky, it's bouncy. I cannot describe that dessert to you, it's amazing. Wow, now that unpretentious little cake here is a bomb of flavor, the phare breton. We need to talk about it to wrap up the video, is that there's different ways of making it. This is just one of the many recipes. You can play around by adding more eggs, more milk, less milk, and same for the flour. All of these are gonna change the texture of this particular recipe. More flour is gonna bring you something a bit more like a cake, and more milk is gonna be more like a custard or like a flan. and more egg is gonna make it a bit more stiff, so you're gonna have more bite to it. And it's great to play around at home if you have kids, and to vary the flavors. You can change the prunes for apples or just put nothing at all if you want. It is just an amazing cake. But that completes the recipe, guys. As always, if you have any question about this, send me your question in the comment section or reach out on Instagram, hashtag French Cook Academy. And you can always, of course, become a patron on my Patreon page. And don't forget, we have now our online culinary school where you can enroll for our first course. Get started with French cooking. That completes the recipe, and I see you all next week for another beautiful recipe. Take care all. Bye-bye.